unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
Oh, whoops. There it is. Sorry about that. Hey, how are you all? My name is Chris McLean. This is Hater Radio. I'm with my co-host, Ian Gibson. How are you, Ian?
I'm doing really good.
All right. So this is week 2. So we are moving along, kind of like has a weird start to the season because it's like week 0 is like, a smattering of games. And then week 1 is like Thursday to Monday, so it's like got a weird feel to it. And then this is like the official normal start to the season. I think there's only games on Friday this weekend and Saturday, so there's no other 5-day spread. So it makes it a little bit easier to digest because we're just going the normal day of Saturday for the most part. But let's get into it. Saturday, the first game we have is Iowa State. Iowa State got that victory in Dublin, and then last week beat a pretty easy team. So they didn't really get challenged last week, but Rocco Beck looked pretty good. Iowa in their game, they ran the ball a ton. They actually got 310 yards on the ground, which is pretty crazy amount of number. But Gronowski, their quarterback, only had 45 yards or 44 yards passing. So not a good look for that, especially against a team like Albany. But they held them to 177 total yards. In this game, Ian, obviously it's going to be Iowa's defense against Iowa State's offense, probably the most premier aspect of this game. But what stands out for you just from this game in a whole, though?
I would probably say it would have to be the discrepancy between the offenses, because Iowa's going to run the ball, and Iowa State, especially with Beck, has been airing it out. Iowa's defense has not yet been tested. They've only played one game, but they haven't really been tested in the secondary aspect yet. And this is going to be their biggest test. They did a really good job against the run, and we know that Iowa's defense does great against the run. And they only averaged giving up about less than 100 yards last year. So that's going to be the interesting thing, is seeing how Iowa passing game is going to attack the secondary, and if it's going to be a feeling out process, or they're just going to go straight for the neck early. I would expect a couple kind of shot plays early from Campbell and Iowa, because we know Beck is a capable enough quarterback. And for Iowa to respond, the defense has to stand strong. And I think if they can hold Iowa State to 21 points, they have a shot of staying in this game.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree. I mean, it's Iowa's defense has always been strong. Since I can remember. I don't remember a year that Iowa's defense was not good. But the problem with them is that the fact that their offense is not good, hardly ever. I mean, maybe a few times in the early 2000s, but ever since then it's been, run the ball, and their quarterbacks are putrid, and they're just, I don't know. I guess the biggest sticking point with them is their quarterbacks is don't turn over the ball, which, could come in handy in this game because Iowa State's offense is so good that if they do get, if Iowa State does get some turnovers, that they could turn those into points relatively quickly. And that kind of changes the whole aspect of this game. But I know the last couple of years, this game has been close. So that is a thing to look out for. So I think I'm going to stick with 27-20 game, maybe 27-17 game, and Iowa State pulls out. What do you got, Ian?
So I'm going to kind of believe it's going to be defense wins championships here. I honestly think Iowa is going to step up and get enough stops, because I don't think also Iowa State has seen a defense like this yet. K-State had a very good defense, but obviously wasn't good enough to keep up. But I think Iowa can do a good job shutting down the passing game and force their hand to run it. And I think Iowa, field position wise, if they get enough 3-and-outs, if they get a short enough field, they can score. Like I said, they hold them to 21 points. That'll get the job done. The other thing, doing homework on this, Iowa State has not beaten Iowa as the road team since 2011. It has been 10 years. Ever since then, Iowa, if it's in Ames, they've won the game. I think that trend will continue. I'm going to go Hawkeyes winning the Cyhawk. I'm going to go with a 24-20 win for the Hawkeyes.
Oh, well, you do realize it's in Ames, right?
It is in Ames, yeah. Iowa State has won in Ames since was it Iowa City or Iowa plays in Ames, right? Or am I mixing this?
Well, it's saying it's at Iowa State. I don't remember what city is which. Let me see real quick.
Oh, it is Iowa State. Is it in Ames?
Yeah, it's in Iowa
that's
State.
Interesting. So they haven't won in 8. They haven't won as the home team since 2011.
Oh, wow. For real? Is that true?
Yeah, I did the 2014. I skipped a year. 2014 was the last time. Oh wait, no, it is 2011. Wow, that's crazy.
Are you looking at the Winsipedia?
I'm on Wikipedia.
Oh, yeah.
The Winsipedia would be a good idea.
Yeah,
2011.
Well, like I would say probably before Matt Campbell got there that Iowa State was not very good for a long time. So it does make sense. And Iowa was getting to like, New Year's Six bowl games pretty regularly in the last 20 years before Matt Campbell. So it does make sense. But no, that is bizarre to have not been able to beat that team in your place in a long time. Like that'd be demoralizing as a fan, as a as a player. Like you just never beat these guys.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm confused. Last year, whose campus is Iowa City?
That has to be Iowa.
Okay. And then Ames is Iowa State.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That makes sense because I'm looking back at it now. But they did. Okay. They didn't play the rivalry in 2020 because of COVID. So they played in Ames 2 years in a row and lost both of those. And then, geez, that's brutal. Okay. Let's move on to next game we have was Illinois Duke. Mensa looked really good last week. I know it was only Elon, but he had I think his most yards ever. And I think it was close to 400 yards. And then Illinois held Illinois State to 163 yards, 29 on the ground, which is really good. I mean, Illinois has had a good defense the last 3 or 4 years, so that's no surprise. Altmaier had a pretty solid day, 17-21, 217 yards, 3 TDs. Illinois totaled 440 total yards. This is a sneaky good game because I don't think many people are talking about it this week in general is not a great week for games. There's not a ton of them. So this is kind of one of those where it's the lower tier matchups are going to stand out. And I think this might be the game of the day because these are two really, really sound teams. They play good defense and they're playing pretty good offense right now. So, and they're also both surprises in their conferences that they might be ones to contend for the top. So, Ian, your thoughts on this game before we jump into a prediction?
Yeah, mostly this is going to be kind of high-powered offense against high-powered defense. Illinois and Brett Bielema built a very good defense at Illinois, and Duke with Mensah is really had a good coming out party. This is going to be interesting because Illinois, like I said, reading this, the last time they beat a Power 5 team that wasn't in the Big Ten as the road team was when Ron Zook was the coach. It's been a long time.
That's a long time ago.
And this is kind of ripe for upset. I think Duke pulls off the upset here.
Okay.
Upset pick of the week, I guess. I think Duke can really do this because I don't think Illinois would be able to keep up with that passing attack. As good as that defense is, Mensa can still scramble out of the pocket and get yardage that way. I find it more likely Duke moving forward than backwards against this defense.
Yeah. So what is your prediction?
I would say Duke wins a 30 to 27 game. It'll be close. And it could go the other way around too.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I like Mensa a lot. I mean, we've watched him a lot because he was at Tulane for a few years, and we got to see him play against USF and just being in the American, seeing those games. So, I don't know. I definitely like Duke to win, but I think Illinois. I don't know. It just seems like Illinois really has a shot to really do something this year, and I know Duke does too. But it's like Illinois. They have these matchups coming up where if they can, go 2-1 in their tough games, they got a real shot at the Big Ten. But I guess this game doesn't necessarily matter and it's not going to hurt them in the long run, but it will set them up down the road for confidence going into those bigger games. So I think Bielema is going to have them ready. I think it's going to be like a 24-20 game. And maybe Illinois scores late with the last couple of minutes and then they get the stop at the end. So yeah, 24-20. So we're going opposite here on picks, but it's sometimes good. So then we could see how it pans out. Okay. Next one, we've got Baylor SMU. Baylor coming off that loss against Auburn. Sawyer Robinson looked real good in that game, threw for a ton of yards, over 400 yards. So, Baylor looking to bounce back. SMU had I'm trying to think what their score was. Let me see.
I think it was 42 to something. It was 42-13 or something.
Yeah, it wasn't a very close game, but it was also against a tomato can. So, take that with a grain of salt. But no, I think that in this game, I think Baylor bounces back a bit, but SMU can score a ton of points. They've showed it all of last year and continued into this year. They scored. They were 42-13, but it was East Texas A&M. I mean, that's a team that Florida State's going to murder this week. I don't know. I'm thinking, Baylor with the ability to throw the ball and the fact that SMU, gave up some points to East Texas A&M, and they gave up 250 passing yards to them too. So maybe Baylor's able to move the ball through the air and score some points. So I'm going to say Baylor probably wins 34 to 28. What do you got, Ian?
First of all, this is a throwback to the Southwest Conference RIP to that whole thing. I think what was telling with that Baylor-Auburn game is with a quarterback like Jackson Arnold, and I'm not saying he's not mobile, because he clearly is. He's a dual threat QB.
Yeah.
But they just could not keep him in the pocket. He was just running all over him. And now you have to go against Jennings, who is an even better type of quarterback.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that's going to be way too much for Baylor's defense. Now, they do a good job against the pass, but the running attack is something that's been a struggle so far. Yeah. And I felt Auburn put over 400 yards, and that's not a high-powered offense. SMU is. I think this game will be a shootout, but I trust SMU getting the job done. I'm going to go Mustangs winning with a 38-28 win.
Okay, moving on to I only put this one on here because FIU got a single vote in the top 25. FIU versus Penn State. I want to hear your thoughts on FIU if you know anything about them.
So first things first, my roommate's gonna love this. My roommate is a graduate of Florida International, and he jokes all the time of like, he doesn't know college football, but he's like, I'm a Golden Panther fan. I was like, you can pick a better team, you know that, right? But FIU, yeah, they had they played Bethune-Cookman, and they blowout win, usually with those type of games.
Yeah.
But overall, it was a very good game. They dipped into the transfer portal a lot. They're very heavy on the offense. Jenkins, the quarterback, dual threat kind of guy, had over 187 yards passing and can obviously kill you with his legs. And he's from the South Florida area. He was from Miami. Florida International definitely should be better than they were last year. I'm not sure if they're going to be competing for the Conference USA title, but they have a good enough offense to keep them in games this season. But now you got to play Penn State, who has one of the best defenses in the country.
Yeah,
that's kind of a tough ask. So they held a team like Nevada in check, and Nevada is more experienced on offense, and then Nevada really, once it got into the second half, they just put them away. I think Penn State will get that done too. I'm going to go Nittany Lions with a 42-14. I think FIU will get more points than Nevada.
Yeah, I think Penn State's going to roll. I'm going to say like a 49-7 game. I mean, I think FIU is going to be lucky to get the ball across the 50. They may not even score that 7. But Alar probably has like 250 through the air and like 3 touchdowns. And then the duo of Singleton and what's the other Penn State running back?
Owens.
Is that his name? But the duo, they get the 2 TDs. Yeah, and so it'll be pretty much a butt whooping. Okay, let's move on. An SEC game between 2 SEC teams, finally. I know it's only been 1 week, but we finally get this. Ole Miss and Kentucky. It's in Lexington. Kentucky got the win last year where, Ole Miss really fell apart in that game. And, it was surprising because, I think Kentucky won 4 or 5 games last year. And, it was a real brutal loss for them. It really, it wasn't just that. It was also the Florida loss solidified the fact that they weren't going to the playoff. But, maybe Lane has some revenge on his mind in this game. Austin Simmons comes into this game, looking to prove himself. I feel like, Ole Miss is definitely a team that last year had a lot of publicity. God, I can't say the word. Coming into the year, and they didn't live up to it. Obviously, we're just talking about it, but I think this year is kind of the reverse of that. They really haven't had that much heat for the most part, so it's been kind of they're under the radar, largely to do with the fact that Austin Simmons is, a younger quarterback, and a lot of people don't know who he is. Jackson Dart was, at USC, he had a name. He was around for a few years. But Austin Simmons looked pretty good in his first game against Georgia State. He had 341 total yards, 3 TDs. He did have 2 picks. Their offense put up 695 total yards, which is just amazing. 295 on the ground as well. This team is very dynamic. There are a lot of pieces on the team that, can make defenses sweat in the night before they prepare for this game. So, Ian, give me your thoughts on how you think Ole Miss is going to do in this game.
I think Ole Miss is going to do just fine against this Kentucky defense, especially. Kentucky, yeah, defensively, they've always been pretty solid since Stoops has been there. But now you've got to handle, Lacey, the running back, and Simmons rushing attack. That RPO game is going to be brutal against them. You've got Wallace, the wide receiver, got over 100 yards receiving last week, and credit, it was against Georgia State, but still very impressive. And I just don't see Kentucky putting up enough points. We know Ole Miss is going to put up points, and I don't see Kentucky putting up the same number. Calzada is very, statue in the pocket, and I feel like the defensive line that Ole Miss has can get to him. I'm gonna, I think the Rebels will take it pretty handedly. I'm gonna go with like a 31-13 win for Ole Miss.
Yeah, I'm thinking like a 34-35 to like 17 game as well. Okay, moving on to Oklahoma State, Oregon. Oregon smashed whatever tomato can they were playing. I think they beat them by like 60 or whatever. And then I was looking at Oklahoma State's game against UT Martin, and they only won 27-7, and their quarterback only had 136 yards passing. So not a great game by Oklahoma State. They had 359 total yards. They allowed 225 by UT Martin. So not a great game, but again, it's one of those things where it's like how much you take from these games, because the teams are so overly matched that it's like you can't really tell too much. Like even if a team wins like 80-7 the week before, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to win the next week. And I think that but it might be telling, though, that how much Oklahoma State struggled here to not even be able to score 30-plus points on an FCS team. And, they've struggled last year. They were really bad last year, Oklahoma State. So are they going to be really bad this year? I think so as well. I think they lose this game pretty badly. I think Oregon, with Dante Moore, with some of their offensive pieces, they're able to put up I think Oregon's going to score at least 35, maybe 38, and Oklahoma State's only going to be able to score at most 20 at most. What do you got, Ian?
Yeah, and the bread and butter for Oklahoma State has been the rushing attack, and Oregon has done a very good job plugging holes against the running game both last year and this year. So I think Oregon will get enough stops against the Cowboys. And it is showing shades of last year with the Boise State game, how that was like early in the season and it looked like a trap game for Oregon. This definitely is a trap game, but I don't think Dan Lanning's going to let them, sleep on it this time. I expect the Ducks to win handedly. I'm going to go with a 30-14 win for Oregon.
Yeah, it just seems like Oklahoma State's outmatched in this one. Okay, next one we have, I think this is where game day is going, Kansas, Missouri. And so, I'm excited for this one because this is a rivalry game that, existed for forever up until, Missouri left for the SEC many years ago. And, to see it come back, and at least this year is nice to see it come back, because what was it? This was the border war. Was this one what it was called?
Border war.
And I actually knew someone that had gone to Kansas and, talked about this game a lot. So it is interesting to see it come back. It's definitely a game that, is, bitter rivalry. And I think for the most part, pretty even how these teams are. I know sometimes Missouri's a little bit better, but for the most part, they're about this level the last 20 years. Sometimes a ranked team, sometimes not team. And they're there, but they have some random losses against okay teams. So they're not really besides that one year in 2007 where they were both I think like Kansas was like 11-0 and Missouri was like 10-1 coming into that game. But besides that, it's never been like that. Like that's the outlier. The rest of it's usually like, when the times they'd play, they'd be like 8-4, 7-5, or like, 6-5 or whatever. But Missouri looked pretty good. Perbula had a pretty big game. Jalen Daniels looked well against Fresno State, and then they played Wagner this past week. They had 631 yards against Wagner. Jalen Daniels already has 7 TDs through the air. I'm pretty sure that's probably leading the nation. I don't know for sure, but it seems like it, just because we're so early. Mizzou had 560 yards against Central Arkansas. They allowed 227 yards, and 154 of that were rushing. So looks like Jalen Daniels might be able to get loose against them a little bit. What are your thoughts in this game coming into the border war?
So first thing I want to say, please have this be an annual rivalry again. Yeah. Right up there with West Virginia Pitt and those ones. Like, this is just good for college football. It was so much fun back in the day. Even if they're in different conferences, it doesn't matter. These are teams that need to play each other every year.
Totally agree.
I feel like with this game, it's going to be very different attacks because Missouri, they were throwing them for over 300 yards, but they traditionally relied on the rushing attack. Meanwhile, Kansas has been relying on the passing game, especially with Daniels, and having him roll out in the pocket and run. And we know how dynamic Daniels can be. What's interesting is that defensively, both of these teams have been pretty even, but passing defense, Missouri has done very well over the years. And that's going to be interesting to see how Kansas attacks, because that could be the weakness, is that Kansas can do very good against the run. The pass is where they're going to have to force Missouri's hand. So I feel like in this one, man, this is close. I love it because it's close and it's a rivalry game. I know what's interesting is the last, literally since that 1 versus 2 matchup, all the meetings have been in Kansas City, where Arrowhead Stadium, and this is the first time they're playing in Columbia since 2006. And if I remember, Missouri won that one. I think it's been well over 2 decades since Kansas has won in Columbia. So there's some history against that, against Kansas. But I feel like Kansas can get the job done. Yeah. I feel like they'll get enough points on the board. Daniels will get will just find a way to turn it on and, find guys like Henderson and Hishaw, the running back, has been really good on the game. I feel like their offense matches up better against Missouri's defense. So I'm going to go Kansas winning a close one. I'll go let's go like 34-30.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. It's going to be close. I feel like Missouri's going to be able to move the ball a decent amount. Kansas really hasn't played anybody yet. I mean, they looked good against Fresno State, and I'll hand it to them. Fresno is not a terrible team, but this is definitely a step up. I think, Missouri, the offense is fully capable of putting up, 25, 30 points in this game. But conversely, I feel like Kansas is going to be able to move the ball on the ground, like I said, and I feel like they can score at least, 28. So, but I feel like Missouri's going to get it. You said it's in Columbia. That makes a difference here. I think people are going to be hyped. You said it was 2006 last time, right?
2006 because, 2007 from then on was played at Arrowhead Stadium.
Yeah, so, I feel like, this crowd is going to be amped for this game. They haven't seen this rivalry in almost 20 years in their place. They're going to be super pumped, and I think that's going to be the difference. I think it's going to be like maybe come down to the wire, maybe like a last-second field goal, and I think Missouri makes it to win it. I'm going to say Missouri wins 31-28. Okay, moving on. We're going to put this one last. It's because I forgot to mention this at the top of the show. We have an interview with Seth Varnadore from Pod by the Bay and Varnadore Films. He is both a Florida fan and a USF fan. He graduated from USF undergrad and then went to graduate school at Florida and got a degree there as well. So he's equally in tune to both schools, and he does a lot of analysis for both teams. So he's very wise about what's going on between the two of them. So we have that interview after the show. That'll be the last thing we do. Let's move on to Arizona State, Mississippi State. Arizona State looked pretty good in their win. Sam Leavitt had like 330 total yards in this game. Couple of touchdowns. They did allow Northern Arizona to put up 331 yards of offense and 19 points. So that's not great, but Northern Arizona got one of their touchdowns very late. So it's a little deceiving. This is, last year, Arizona State got to the playoff, was very close to beating Texas. It was like, in overtime, and like anything could have happened, and they could have easily won. So they barely lost that game after a monster comeback that they had to even tie it to force overtime. Scadaboo is gone, but Leavitt is back, like I said. Tyson, the receiver's back. They have a lot of weapons. Kenny Dillingham, the head coach, is a whiz kid with offense, so they'll be able to score points. I think Mississippi State, again struggled last year, not looking so hot coming into this year. I think Mississippi State's only going to win a few games this year, and this is not going to be one of them. I think Arizona State wins pretty handedly. I'm going to say Arizona State wins like 38-17. What do you got, Ian?
So I would say, yes, I agree. Arizona State on paper is by far the better team, and that offense I don't think is going to have a problem. But something about playing on the road in Mississippi, in Starksville, that's something Arizona State hasn't seen in a while, and I think that might get to them. I think it's going to be close in the first half, and eventually Arizona State will kind of run away with it. But I think Mississippi State can hang with them for as much as they can until the gas runs out. But I'll go Sun Devils winning. I'll go 28-14 Arizona State.
Okay, moving on. Vanderbilt and Virginia Tech. This is an interesting game. Virginia Tech kind of struggled against South Carolina. They get two SEC opponents to start the season, which is kind of rare for a non-SEC team to do that. But this game is in Blacksburg. I was looking at the information with Vandy from last week, and Pavia, looked pretty good. He was 20 for 25, 275 yards, 3 TDs. They had 481 total yards. Again, it was a tomato can, so whatever. They only allowed 135 yards total, and then 47 on the ground. So the defense is looking stout, which, of course, because of Clark Lee's specialty is defense, I wouldn't expect anything less. Pavia is definitely like the secret sauce right now for them. He's a shorter quarterback, but he's, the will of a tiger, and he definitely is, gonna will his teams to wins, to victories, like he did against Alabama last year, and he almost did against Missouri, and then he almost did against LSU. Like he definitely is the difference maker in that team, and it is, it's pretty cool to see, because Vanderbilt for a long time has not been good, and now they have a real recipe for success going there. I see Vandy winning this game. Virginia Tech looked good at points against South Carolina, but they really struggled to really score. I think Vandy's going to be able to score. I think Vatek might be able to score a little here, but no more than maybe 17 or 20. And I think Vandy scores like 28. So I'm going like 28-17 game. What do you got?
Yeah, I think the one thing about Vanderbilt, and one thing that Lee has stressed, is efficiency. and on both sides of the ball. And they know Vodtek's strength has been offense with drones. The problem is drones passing wise has been very inaccurate. So they're going to try to, especially with the coverage schemes, maybe some man cover 3 options, really try to take away the big play. And then when they get the ball, it's to play keep away. And Vanderbilt's done a very good job of that since Clarkley's gotten there. And I think they're going to do that again. I think Vandy can get this done. It's on the road. It's, it's a tough environment in Vodtek, but I think they can beat the Hokies. I'm going to go with a close one, and I think Vanderbilt just gets more done on their drives compared to Vodtek. So I'm going to go Commodores winning. Let's go like a 27-20 win.
Okay, moving on. This is the big game of the day. Bryce Underwood going up against John Mateer in the Michigan coming to oh God, I can't even think. Where's Oklahoma? It's Norman, Oklahoma. Sorry, it's early for me. For Ian, it's a little bit later. Ian, it's like 11 o'clock. I woke up at like 6:30, so I'm a little tired. No. This matchup definitely on paper looks like a potential playoff matchup. It's like right now, like coming into the season, they weren't both ranked, but I have a feeling that both will end up ranked by the end of the year. I like Mateer a lot. I watched that game against who did they play? I don't even remember. Illinois State or something like that. And he had an interception, but like for the most part, he had a ton of really good throws. The thing that I didn't like, the start of the first and second half for them, there were both 3 and outs, which is not great against a weaker opponent. But, it is the first game with all these new players. It is the same system because he has the same coordinator and same QB coach from last year that followed him from Washington State. I feel like they're going to be able to put up points in this game. Conversely with Bryce Underwood, the kid's got a cannon. Like I was watching some of his throws and I'm like, man, it is like a bullet and it's so quick. Like his release is not like long at all. It's like the second he goes to like pull back on his arm, the ball is out. Like it's not even, it's like I don't know what the count is, but it's very, very finite or very small. And so he's got the potential of really like, making that offense move. They can, get the quick game going and they're going to be able to like really kind of move down the field. I would say the one thing that he needs to work on is his touch, because there were a few passes where it was like such a bullet that the receiver couldn't even catch it. And if he takes a little bit of speed off those, maybe it gives his players a chance to catch it. But it also was like threading the needle between defenders. So maybe you do need that like bullet type pass. The other thing was I did see him make a touch pass on the sideline on this like tight end wheel route. And the tight end had the defenders beat pretty well. And he just like lofted it over their heads. And it was right in the basket for the tight end. And they get it for like a 25, 30-yard gain. So that was really nice. I didn't see him run the ball a ton, which was surprising because I thought he was, known to be able to run the ball. Maybe they're just holding back, waiting for this week and having him run more this week and like having him work on throwing this last week against New Mexico. Defensively, they look solid, Michigan. The running game with Justice Haynes looked really good. He had 3 TDs he had 3 TDs. And, he had like several like 30, 40-yard runs. So they're going to be able to run the ball even if they don't run it with Underwood. Mateer, I think in this game has to step up. If Oklahoma's going to win this game, you got to see Mateer put up 300 yards and like 3 TDs. I don't think Underwood needs to put up a big game for them to win. I think defensively, if they hold Mateer in check, they can win. But I think Mateer does have a good game, and I think that bodes well for Oklahoma. Oklahoma's defense, I'm not sold on, but they did look like they were very sure tackling, and so they were like able to like wrap up anytime they were near an offensive player who had the ball. So that looked good on that spot. I'm going to say, I want to hear your prediction, then I'll give mine afterwards. Go ahead, Ian.
I just want to say I think it's very funny. You have very similar storylines of Bryce Underwood, highly touted kid, first game on the road in Norman, almost identical to Arch Manning first game against Ohio State, and both those schools hate the other team. So I thought this was pretty funny, kind of a carbon copy. The one thing that is really interesting to note and kind of goes into a deeper issue, one of Michigan's top linebackers next to Ernest Hausman was Jayshon Barnum, and he's going to be out the first half because of that targeting call.
Oh, yeah.
Mexico, which they appealed, and the NCAA said no because they're idiots. That's not targeting. He wrapped around him. Just my 2 cents. I don't think targeting, at least at that kind, you should be suspended for, but whatever. So now the middle of the field is now you still have Hausman to deal with, but you now have the middle of the field to work with if you're Mateer, or even the rushing attack as well. And I think Oklahoma is going to do that early. I think they get off to a quick enough start, slant plays, in routes, and then just kind of expose the middle and get that linebacking and secondary off balance. We know how good Michigan's defense is, but if they're wounded, you have to attack them. And then you have to force Bryce Underwood to win the game. And that's going to be really tough for a freshman quarterback to go into Norman, very hard environment on the road, and try to win the game. Not saying he's not capable of it. He clearly can. He's got all the talent in the world. But like you said, he needs to work on his touch, and they might be trying to have some more run plays or rollout plays for him to make him more comfortable. But it'll be like the same thing. If Oklahoma wants, look at Ohio State's film. If you want to rattle a really high talented guy who's just making his first start, get in his face, make sure you're playing tight coverage and, these cover two plays, and get him rattled. And I think Oklahoma can do that, especially on offense. I trust Mateer more than I would Underwood. So I'm going to go Sooners winning. I'll go with 28-23 Sooners.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I like your analysis there. It's definitely spot on. And, I think if you force Bryce Underwood to be the hero in this game, I think just because he's so young, like if he was like a year older, I would be like, oh no, you don't want to do that. But I think like now is the best time to like force him into doing stuff that he's not comfortable, because he more than likely will make mistakes. It's just a thing. Like even in, DJ Lagway's first start on the road, or not start, but first time he like really took over was that Tennessee game, and he threw an interception almost like right away. And so like it's going to happen. Like he's going to throw a bad pick. It's just what it is. It's not like this kid won't have a great career. And I'm not saying that. I'm just being, objective and looking at it as like, this is what normally happens to freshman QBs on the road. They just don't normally perform 100% like they could at home. So yeah, he might struggle here a little bit, especially in those pressure situations. And again, like I said, Mateer, if he has a really good game, I like Oklahoma a lot. And I'm going to say he does have a good game. I'm going to say Oklahoma wins I'm going to say a little bit of a lower scoring game. I'm going to say like 24-20. Okay, moving on. We have our two teams we cover. Besides the other two teams that we'll talk with Seth, we've got the USC Georgia Southern game. Clay Helton coming back to the Coliseum. I know a lot of USC fans have been talking about it all week, about Clay Helton coming back. It is what it is, man. Like he did some decent things for the school. Like you could just leave it as that. He obviously wasn't the man for the job, and he's, no longer there. Like, don't hold it against him. Just give him the golf clap, move on, because that's all it really is. Once you golf clap him or whatever, he gets announced, That's all it's going to be. Is there's going to be no other announcement of him the rest of the game. So like, just cheer on the Trojans. They should wax them pretty significantly. I mean, I'm guessing USC is going to score at least 50 points. Jaden's going to have a great game again, probably over 300. The running backs are looking great. You got the two stud wide receivers, Ja'Kai Lemon and Jacoby Lane. So they're going to put up a ton of points here. And, the defense, I think that the key here is because once the schedule gets a little bit harder, you want to see the defense get into full form. They looked solid last week, but I want to see hold them to a low point total and a low yardage total, keep them in check so that, the defense really gets the confidence coming into the rest of the year. What do you got, Ian?
Yeah, I feel like, same thing. USC is going to have this. I want to know what Georgia Southern, though, because they had to play Fresno State and got blown out by them. Did they even go back to, Georgia? Did they just say, like, yeah, we'll just have class here? Anyways, that's why I feel like, too, USC, if they put up, a million points on Missouri State, and Georgia Southern gave up 42 to Fresno State, I feel like USC is going to get the job done here. Clay Helton probably get a rude welcome back. For me, with him, he is seriously have to find a way to get the Georgia Southern program out of neutral. They have been stuck with these 6-win seasons since he got there. Now, credit, they did win 8 games last year, but now it's time to take that next step and start trying to win the Sun Belt. But for USC, I don't feel like they're going to have any trouble with this one.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on to a game where there'll be a lot of trouble is UCLA against UNLV. Now, UCLA got blown out last week against Utah. I saw that Deshaun Foster was saying that he felt they are close, and a lot of people were upset about that, saying that he was way off base. Honestly, after I watched that game, I felt like he is not wrong because of the scheme that Tony Sansari put together. And I felt like those receivers were open and that Nico just did not hit those guys. And I feel like if he's more in sync with the receivers, that it opens up the game a little bit more. They can score more points. They have the ball longer. Their defense isn't as tired. I think that was a big problem in that game that, Utah had the ball for so long, so the defense was just gassed the entire time. I think if they're able to score and keep up with the other team, that it gives the defense a chance to really make some plays. Again, I think they're not going to see a team like Utah probably the rest of the year. There's not a quarterback like Dampier on their schedule really. So it is a kind of an outlier game. I feel like this game, though, Dan Mullen is a great offensive mind. I feel like they're going to be able to score points, but the problem is, Utah had a defense. UNLV does not have a defense, and they allow a ton of points so far this year. They've won both of their games, but they've barely won both of them. So I'm going to say UCLA gets off the schneid. They're right now favored by 2.5. FPI has them as a 20% chance of winning, but somehow they're favored by Vegas, which is weird. I think that's just a gambling thing. They're trying to take people's money. So I got UCLA winning this one. I'm going to say UCLA wins close. I'm going to say it's a 27-24 game. What do you got, Ian?
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head. For UCLA to win this game, Maliava has to be hitting these passes, and they have to be hitting these plays. Here's the thing. We know UNLV's defense isn't going to be that great, but is it going to be as, bad as it was against Utah? Utah's defense really did show up. So This is the time, if they're going to have to do this, this is the game to do it. UNLV's defense isn't as solid, and it might come down to a shootout. That might be what Dan Mullen's planning, is that he knows the defense isn't as strong. But if you can, play keep away with UCLA, then you've got them right where you want them. So I feel like with this one, it really could go either way because both have, UNLV, we know what we're getting. But with UCLA, the scheme is good. They just have to start executing.
Yeah,
I agree. I think they get it done. I think they start, getting the job done. But I think it'll be a shootout. I'm gonna go with like a 38 to like 38-31 Bruins.
Nice. Okay. So that is the majority of the portion show. I'm going to let Ian go because he's got to go get ready for work. But Ian, tell us what your Twitter handle is again before you go.
Yes, it is now at G5 Gibson. And also YouTube and Instagram is at the regular G Gare G.
So it's G5_Gibson, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right. So I'm going to let Ian go, and then we're going to bring in this interview with Seth, and then I'll come back at the end. Okay. All right, Ian. I'll see you Sunday.
Yep,
or maybe Saturday. Maybe Saturday in person.
See you guys.
See.
Varnadore.
All right. So we're here with Seth. Seth, how do you say your last name?
Varnadore.
Varnadore.
Yeah.
And Seth is a USF grad in undergrad and a Florida graduate alumni. And so like we've always talked about, and both me and Ian are USF grads and Florida fans originally when we grew up. And that's what Seth said he was as well. So it's kind of like unique here that we have this perspective, especially on this game here coming up. I wrote down some little notes about the series between these two. So I've actually been to all three games in this series all the way. What about you, Seth?
I've been to the last two. As covering on the media side, I've covered the last two games.
Nice. Yeah, I actually got in 2021 the one where Anthony Richardson went off. Yeah. I got press passes for that one, largely to do with because in the 2010 game, I actually was working in the athletic department for USF when I was in law school. And so I was able to get a lot of tickets in that time and be on the sidelines for games. So it was kind of fun. But let's go into this. So, the games this past weekend, the one on Thursday with USF, it obviously looked amazing because Boise State was coming in ranked. They looked like they were just going to continue on from last year. Little did we know that without Ashton Genty, they were going to be a lot less formidable. And I liked Madsen last year. I remember watching him and being like, oh, he's pretty impressive. I think it helped, though, with that run game and with Dirk Cutter probably calling plays. But what are your thoughts from that USF game last week?
Yeah, it turns out it's hard to replace the best player in your history pretty quickly. And with regards to Madsen, it definitely seemed like last year they're so run game heavy. And I think he's really good on play action and kind of those quick throws and the underneath throws in front of that third level of defense, but behind the linebackers that are coming up to play the run game. But I thought what USF did a really good job of is especially being aggressive, going with that fake punt to get up early, get up a couple scores. And then once you got up a couple scores, you made Boise State play kind of left-handed. They had to throw the ball a lot, which they don't want to do. I think they ended up throwing the ball 40-something times, which they don't want to do. So you made them kind of play the game you wanted to play instead of the game they wanted to play, and I think that's kind of how the game got away from Boise a little bit. I don't know if the final score is super indicative of the game. I think USF did a really good job on the margins and then made some really big plays. I don't think Boise's a bad team. I think they'll probably still end up winning 9 or 10 games. So it'll be a really nice feather in USF's cap the rest of the year. But USF just totally got them kind of off kilter and got them playing their game. So,
yeah, he had 46 passes, which is definitely not something that they would have liked to done. And I said coming into this 3-game stretch for USF, that if they won just one of them, that they would have a good outlook for the rest of the year. And I knew out of the 3 games that Boise State looked like the most likely for them to win. And I predicted it before the game because I was like, it just seemed like the best chance for them to take a game out of those 3. And they did. And now it's like, really, even if they lose the 2 games against Florida and Miami, they could still win out their American Conference play and go 10-2. And that's a huge year for them. I don't know if they'd get in the playoff with a 10-2 record, but it would still look pretty good to be losses against potentially 2 playoff teams.
I think what I said too. What I said, even going into the game and before that, I said, look, the non-conference games going in, truthfully, as a USF fan, I don't like. Yes, it's good to get that win, but in conference play is what matters because we need to see them start making strides in that. But with that one against Boise State, I look at the schedule now and I'm like, who can beat them now if they play like that?
Yeah, I think if your defense plays that way all year, you feel pretty good about making a run in the conference. And I think if you do, even if, like you said, if you do lose the next 2, but kind of make a run through the conference and win all those games, you're in the playoff, I would think, because the Mountain West looks pretty down, and Boise's probably still going to win the Mountain West. They'll probably end up 10-2, lose to Notre Dame maybe, and maybe run it out from there. But you got the head-to-head over them pretty decisively. So I think whoever wins the American probably has kind of the head up now, where Boise before the season, everyone thought they were going to be the G5 rep. I think whoever wins the American, if they can kind of come through mostly unscathed, they get a really good chance to be that representative in the playoff.
Yeah, but let's the one thing I wanted to talk about the most is obviously you said the defense, and I wanted to bring up some points like DeClona, is that how you say his name?
Yeah, Jonas DeClona.
Yeah,
dude. I mean, like, just a revelation. Like, the guy was like all over the place, making nasty hits, just setting the edge. I was like, man, we have not had this kind of DB. Like, I don't even really remember ever a DB being that, like, just you could rely on that. Like, it was like the whole game. It was like if he was there in the spot, he was going to make the play. And, it was such a breath of fresh air. On the defense, we talked about it in the preview show a couple weeks ago, where it was like USF was 115th and 119th in total defense the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And it's like you are not going to win many games if your defense is that porous. And already first game, and they only allowed I'm looking at it right now in that game. I think it was. I mean, they still allowed a decent amount of yards, but it was like Boise State had to throw near the end, so they were like getting a lot of garbage.
They forced their hands.
Yeah, and they were just like they had to get a ton of yards, and like USF was making plays to stop them and get them off the field. So I don't know. I really loved his play. Is there another player that you had in mind that maybe stood out for USF that maybe we haven't mentioned yet?
I thought up front, Seliskar was like almost unblockable for most of the game. He was really, really tough. He was in the backfield constantly. The linebackers played really well, but that was kind of expected. Schuler and Matt Karras to play really, really well. Their guys have been pretty experienced. Have been around the block a little bit. So I thought they played really well in that game. The thing about the defense is they the last 2 years they've gotten better, like down to downs, like success rate has gone up and up and up every year, but they just gave up the huge plays. And then that's why that yardage number was totally bloated, because they'd be great for 2 plays and that third play give up a bomb.
Yeah.
And so that was what I was most excited to see. I think Boise's explosive play rate was really, really low. I think 5% explosive play rate, which is really bad. And so if they can kind of play in that area where they can continue their down-to-down success but limit the explosives, they're going to be really good on defense. Now, I don't know how sustainable that is, but they could, if they're better than last year, because the last couple of years they've been one of the worst in the country at allowing like 20-plus yard plays. If they can kind of get to the middle of the pack, they'll probably be pretty good.
Yeah, especially with the defense too, because that was what was holding. Like literally the last 2 years, I was telling Chris, that was what was holding the team back. I mean, last year, yeah, the offense would sputter. That was mostly because Brown was injured, and Archie did a good enough job. But especially that first year, I was like, God, they can, like, the only way to win this is through a shootout. And if your offense isn't clicking, which sometimes it doesn't, because I remember joking, that first quarter was not pretty on offense. It was 2 3-and-outs, and then they got a first down on the last play of the
I think they had like minus 7 plays for negative yards. I think
I saw that. I was at the game, and they had that on the Jumbotron, and I went like, wow, negative yards going into the second quarter. That's not a good start.
Not great, yeah.
No, go ahead, Seth.
I was say, yeah, it's. I think there's still some concern for USF offensively. You weren't like it was kind of the inverse. You weren't great down to down, but you did generate those explosives. And then I think your tempo really wore Boise out as the game went on, and you saw them breaking off some runs at the end. But overall, like play to play, this was not a great game. I think, but they were able to generate those big passes down the field to kind of mask some of that. Which I think. Going into their tougher games, you're not going to be able to win that way. Those teams are going to try to eliminate those explosives and make you work it down the field. So you've got to kind of sharpen up there. But, game ones are always a little sloppy. So it's good on them. They're able to generate those explosives and big plays to put some points on the board.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Florida a little bit. So there's not really much to take from playing these tomato can teams, like it's basically a glorified practice. And, they looked good for the most part. The defense, I think, what was it? A shutout. And then also under 100 yards, no penalties, 2 turnovers, 1 for a touchdown scoop and score by Bryce Thornton. So, they were solid. But I think coming into this game, USF they're going to do their normal routine on offense where it's like, try to get the explosives like you said, but maybe with Florida's defense, like last year, it seemed like Florida was better with eliminating explosives but success rate wasn't that great. I remember hearing that through, do you know, what's the podcast? Gator Nation Football Podcast. You listen to those guys at all?
I've heard of it, yeah.
Yeah, so they're big on success rate and talking about it. And I know you just mentioned it as well earlier. So it's like you're definitely aware, but it's like I think with Florida's defense, they're going to be chomping at the bit. I think if USF is to really win this game or even be competitive in it, first and foremost, they need to be able to run the ball more effectively. Outside of that one run by Alvin Isaac, the run game was pretty non-existent for the most part. I think they had it was around 60 yards at that point when he broke off that run. So
if you're not counting Byram.
Yeah. I mean, Byram and Byram only had 43 yards.
Yeah.
He did have that one nasty run where it got called back, which God,
that was a weak holding call on that.
Oh God, it was so.
They were about to have a Texas Georgia situation at Raymond James. I'm not kidding. There were people I saw somebody in the front row. They had the souvenir cup.
They were ready.
They were primed and ready.
I paid $14 for that.
Yeah. No, but it was man, if it had counted, that would have been such a Sports Center highlight.
No.
And it's man, it would have really jump started Heisman case, but whatever, it is what it is. But like I said, run game is going to be important in this game. I think Florida's run defense looked really stout last week. Again, it's a tomato can, so you really can't take much from that. But they were better last year towards the end of the year, that 4-game stretch where they beat Ole Miss, LSU, Florida State, and Tulane. So, what are your thoughts? USF's offense versus Florida's defense.
I think, and Caleb Banks did not play in week 1, but they said on the broadcast he should be ready for week 2. So USF is going to be down probably 2 of their guys they thought would be starting for them on the offensive line. Left tackle, I think, got hurt kind of in preseason and ended up not playing. And then one of their guards got hurt in the game, ended up coming out, and he may be out for possibly this week as well. So you're going to be – I think they're going to have problems blocking Florida up front, especially if you have Caleb Banks back in the lineup. So they're probably going to have to – a similar game plan. I thought they had problems blocking Boise, but they made some changes using the quarterback run, kind of getting you that extra blocker in the box to make things a little bit easier on you. So Byram, I think, is going to have to really have a good game on the ground for them to get the run game going. It's going to be tough, or they're going to have to work the perimeter because I think they're going to have issues blocking Florida's front. Now, if you can kind of get the ball in the perimeter, Florida's, I think, the least experienced position group, and the one Florida fans and media have the most questions about is kind of that safety group. And so this offense can be really tough on safeties. They put you in predicaments with how much they spread their receivers out, and they can kind of get you where your safeties are having to play one-on-one a lot. So if you're able to generate explosives that way, I think that's your chance to kind of go in and move the ball a ton. I don't think they're going to be able to move it on the ground a lot because, like I said, I thought Boise kind of handled USF in the box for the most part, but Byram was able to make them pay when they got out of lanes a few times. But Florida may be a little bit tougher test there.
Ian, you got an insight into this game a little bit? Florida offense or Florida defense, USF offense?
Well, one thing he touched on, at least with the offense and defense, one thing I said too was, and I was literally tearing my hair out, is that if, especially now against this line, if Caleb Banks is definitely going to play, that makes it way tougher for that O-line that was getting in the backfield. And luckily they have a guy like Brown to run out there, but Brown needs to run. There were times he was holding the ball too long, and it was one of those things where I'm like, at halftime, I was like, if I'm Golish, I'm telling Brown, if you don't see your primary target, you don't have time back there. You got to get some yardage. We cannot be losing 5 yards, especially with a team like Florida's defense. You don't have time. You're not going to have like 3-5 seconds. You're going to have, look at your guy, and if he's not open, you got to take off. So that's probably where Byram's going to try to, beat him with his legs. Luckily, he can take these hits now. So when he goes like to the second level and goes to the linebackers, he's not going to be like hopefully skittish, because I feel like Florida's going to use like a spy package. If they're smart, that would be smart. Yeah,
he's a hoss, man. You see him come up in the post game, and like, this dude is humongous.
Yeah,
he's a big dude.
Yeah, but I would say like that would be at least the game plan for success. Would be obviously attack the perimeter, like you said, attack the perimeter, maybe more out routes, try to get them on outspeed them. It would be the best way to do it, because I don't think you're going to be able to out physical that secondary. And then if you don't see them, haul it and try to get some yardage. You don't have to make a big play every day. You have to make it like third and manageable. If you're USF here.
Yeah, one of the standouts from last week for USF offensively was Chaz Nimrod, and man, he was getting behind the secondary multiple times, and that's something, like you said, if safety play is not able to keep tabs of him and he gets loose, that's a good 30-40 yard gain, and that really kind of changes the not only just the momentum, but then field position and everything. Because I don't know, it's like the game against Alabama last year in Tuscaloosa, it felt like USF was right there with them the entire time, and was maybe it could be a game like that where they just they hold Florida in check enough to get to the end of the game, and then maybe they can make enough plays at the end to really take advantage of it. I don't know. I mean, this team, USF, is definitely, in the 3 years that Golish has been there, it seems night and day from the end of the Jeff Scott era. And, there was some talent on that Jeff Scott team, but now it seems it just seems like a whole different feel, everything. It's just I'm so excited to see where this goes, because it's the OCS is coming up. The momentum for this whole program is completely different than where we were a few years ago. And, this is another step in that direction. I was there in 2007 for the Auburn game, and that was a huge moment. It's a, inflection point of the football program. And it was maybe this could be that game, if not this game, maybe the Miami game. And so, there's a lot building, and it feels great. And it's I don't know, I'm just tangentially going on, but let's talk a little bit about Florida's offense, and we haven't even mentioned him really at all, DJ Lagway. Give me your thoughts on what you feel like DJ's like health-wise, what he looked like on Saturday, and what he looks like to be against USF in this game.
Yeah. Turns out Allen Iverson was wrong. Practice is somewhat important. I think Lagway looked pretty like a guy that has not had a ton of reps. He looked pretty rusty at first. I thought going back and watching the game a little bit, there were some things where it was like, I'm not sure why he's looking here instead of here. And then Napier kind of in his press conference mentioned mistakes by the quarterback quite a few times today. I thought that was kind of an interesting seemed to be going out of his way to mention it a little bit. So I think he's got some stuff to clean up, but once he got settled in, his ceiling is really high. He's obviously can make all the throws, make some crazy throws, and big dude that can avoid pressure in the pocket or even like throw through the pressure. So his ceiling is really, really high. It's just for him, I think, all about his health. If he can stay healthy throughout the year, he'll probably have a really big year. I think the offensive scheme fits him pretty well, what they like to do, and with the run game and taking the shots down the field. So for me, and I'm sure a lot of people have said this, is if he can stay healthy, that's kind of the biggest question. Can he stay healthy for a whole year? Because he's had kind of little nicks and little injuries kind of throughout his career, even going back into high school. So if he can stay healthy, I think he can have a really big year, and his ceiling is really, really high. But it's all about that health.
Definitely. What like specifically for this game, what do you feel like he has to do to really like I don't know, solidify himself in this game, or just basically what are his keys for this game against USF?
Well, I'd imagine USF's going to play. They usually do play pretty aggressive. Now, they did a really good job, I thought, against Boise of mixing it up. Boise thought they were going to get man coverage a lot, and USF came out and played zone and kind of killed some of the things Boise wanted to do on third downs and things like that. So Todd Orlando and them did a pretty good job, but they're usually pretty aggressive. So when you do get those man-on-man shots and you get your chances, you got to make those throws, make those plays. And I think if you can do that, you can make some plays down the field. But if you kind of miss your opportunities or aren't looking at the right guy or aren't delivering the ball in time, because everything you're just a little late because you're not quite used to being in the fire again, then that plays right into USF's hands where we can play man coverage, load up the box, try to stop the run. And if you can't make him pay, they can just stay in it all night. So he's going to have to make some of those throws against man coverage, which he showed he can do in the past. But, it's all about kind of getting back, rounding back into form from last year. So if he can get back into form and guys can separate, then they could probably have some success down the field. But if they don't, USF's just going to probably load up the box and dare them to beat them. And if they can, it'll be a long night.
What are your thoughts on Vernell Brown III's catch from the other night?
So, cool thing about being in coaching and going, Florida has a really cool thing that Florida does is they have a coaching clinic every year. And part of that coaching clinic, you get to come up and you get to watch spring practice, like the full practice, not just the media portion. And then you get to come and listen to the coaches talk after scheme and stuff. So I got to go to practice this year. I went to the clinic and I got to see all those freshman receivers in person. And it was interesting after the spring game. I was like, Dallas Wilson is unbelievable. I'm like, when I was at practice, Vernell Brown was the best of all those three freshman receivers by a good margin. And I thought Nation Montgomery was too. But Vernell Brown was just like breaking people off. They were doing a lot of red zone stuff, and it was like choice routes, bang, bang, breaking guys off left and right. Nobody could cover him. I'm like, this dude is unbelievably smooth and explosive. So I think he's going to have a really big year. And then you see and he can go out and make catches like that. So he's probably going to be a pretty good one. And it seems like he's going to play a lot this year. He started one of the first, I think one of only three like true freshmen to start at receiver for Florida in a long, long time. So he's probably going to have a really good year. Yeah,
and he looked amazing on punt returns.
Yeah, so smooth and explosive and slippery. Like he moves in a special way.
Yeah, he wears number 8 as a freshman. There's another great wide receiver. It's like it's not like he's exactly like him, but it's like there's some similarities. And it's exactly.
And that's one of the other three guys. It's him, Percy, and Antonio Callaway, the only three to start freshmen receivers, I believe.
Yeah. We haven't mentioned is Jaden Baugh, who's actually probably my favorite Florida player right now outside of Tyreek Sapp. But Baugh, man, that run he had on the left side about the 50-yard line where he just like stiff arms one player and then just runs through the other guy. And it was just like, it was so effortlessly. That's what is amazing about Baugh.
And he's like 240 pounds.
Yeah. And it's like, he's so strong. It's crazy. I think they said he's the strongest pound for pound player on the team. And just, he is a beast. And I'm like, man, I know people know he's good. Like, it's out in the media. Like, most people know, they're aware of him, but it's like, it's just as a special player. And, as a running back myself, I played on semi-pro teams, and it's like, just seeing that effort and like seeing that, like, that just, I don't know. That's the type of gritty running style that I love. And I don't know, just kind of, I think like last year was like a little bit of him. It was like more with Montrell, like three-headed monster type thing. And like, I know Jacoby Jackson will be there a lot too, but it's like, I think Jaden Baugh is going to be like the real focus, because it already looked like this first game. It was like, he had over 100 yards, and I don't even think he played much into the second half. And like,
I think he got one play and then like was like, all right, I'm good, guys. You can take me out now.
And I know all the LIU kids were like, oh, thank God.
So like, he's got like room to really like take off this year, and I'm excited for him. And like, I don't know. I mean, I know that the USF linebackers are going to give it their go, but it's going to be tough for them. It really is. And I think that might be where Florida relies on their run game to really try to take advantage of the situation here. And that may be the key to this game. I honestly, just thinking about it right now off the top of my head. What do you think? Go ahead.
Yeah, if Florida's able to run the ball effectively, they'll win the game, I think, is because that's something they can always kind of fall back on. Long Island, not very good personnel-wise, but Napier kind of talked about it. They did some different stuff on defense. You go watch them last year. They were an odd front team, but they were pretty static. Like, the box was pretty static. If you go back and watch, and I did a film room on my YouTube channel on it. We're kind of looking back at the game, but they were moving around a ton. And sometimes when you're a zone team, you'll have a count where, all right, and then the center's like, all right, this is my guy, and then your guy is number one, the next one guy, and then the next guy's number two, and it's just a count over, then a backside count back. They're moving all around a ton, so you don't get your count gets messed up. You have to kind of adjust on the fly. Game one, all that kind of stuff goes into why I think they had some difficulties at times and had some tackles for loss. But that's a really good setup for playing a USF team that will move and stunt and blitz a ton. So I think that seeing that last week, now the players are going to be much better this week, but just seeing that style and that kind of frenetic movement and all that kind of stuff post-snap will probably help Florida a little bit, even though it wasn't as dominant as you would like to see in a game one. I think that kind of weird style of play they had to go against will help them in this game a little bit.
Ian, do you have any thoughts before we move on to a prediction here?
Yeah, so we mentioned it too. I think the biggest thing too was not only the fact that Florida passing wise, like I think we agreed, even Lagway came out and said, I need to play better. He did not have a good game because, he just wasn't getting enough reps, and it showed. He missed wide open guys and was leaning the ball out too far for him. But the other thing that I thought about too was like this, they didn't have Dallas Wilson and they didn't have Aiden Mizell, Mizell was like his number 2 guy last year. And now, depending on how it goes, they should be back. So now you're going to get Wilson, Vernon's coming back, and then potentially Mizell as your slot guys. That if USF is blitzing and if they're smart enough, if they're going to be running that RPO stuff, or just like, hey, they're probably going to bring it here, just run those quick slants out-athlete them. And those guys can make that catch if the ball is delivered accurately. So Lagway's going to have the help back that he needs. But especially, if they have the run game going, if they can average more than like 4 yards a carry, which Bob definitely can do because it's a very different animal like USF's going to be playing. Because, I mean, yeah, that was the funny. Even the touchdown he scored, he literally went into the line, ran around, and was like, "Oh, hey, they're still not pulling me down." And he still scored. So it's going to be very interesting to see. I would say that would be the biggest thing though is if Wilson and Mizell are healthy, and say USF is able to at least somewhat slow down the run game, is it still going to be enough? Because then the whole like wide receiver core is back to full capability, and Lagway is going to be able to hit the guys too if he can deliver it accurately, which we know he can. He just needs to get the reps in.
Nice. Okay, Seth, I want to hear your prediction for this game.
I think it's going to be like a 34-20, 35-24 type game. I think the line is like 18 or 17 and a half. I think USF would probably cover that line. But I think Florida could win by a couple of scores. I wouldn't be shocked if it's a tight game at some point. But I think USF's offense is going to have trouble moving the ball. Now, if they don't, it's a really good sign for them going throughout the rest of the year. But just after how they played against Boise State, I think they're going to have really a ton of trouble running the football. And the offense is somewhat predicated on being able to run. So I think Florida can hold them down a little bit. But Golish always does a really good job in these games. I think, number one, he's super confident, and that comes off on the players as well. And he's really aggressive, and he has nice wrinkles for these big games. Like last year against Miami, they had like a throwback to the quarterback. And, you saw the fake punt against Boise. They always have something up their sleeve. So he does a pretty good job of generating points. So it's not going to be like they're going to get shut out. I think they'll put up some points on the board, but I think it might be a tough night for them. So, 34-20, something like 35-21, 35-24, somewhere in that range, I think.
Yeah, Ian, your prediction?
Yeah, it feels bad because I am still a Gator fan, but I still like USF, but I will always cheer for Florida more. And last time I went, I was at that game where we won by a field goal, and that was the most upset I've ever left the swamp after a win. No joke. And for my own heart, I would like it to be a comfy win, but I think going into halftime, USF, like you said, they find this act to like just play these teams that on paper are better close. And I feel like Golish is going to do the same thing, but it might be like a repeat of the Bama game where they just don't have enough gas in the tank going into the third and fourth quarter where Florida knows how to put those teams away. Like they did that against LSU, Ole Miss, they won the fourth quarter. And I feel like Florida can find a way to win that. I'm going to go Gators winning. My score is going to be a bit misleading, but I'm going to go with like a 38-23 win. But I feel like at halftime, it would be like, I don't know, like 14-13, something like that, enough to get people's attention. But I feel like Florida they'll find a way to win it. And for my own sake and health, I hope they do.
Yeah, that game was crazy. It was, what was it? Wasn't there like a pick six in that game? And then it was
and then AR audibled and threw it into the end zone, and it got picked. And that was when I got on TV, and it was
that's right.
It was the perfect microcosm. It was me with my uncle, and it was literally me going, "What the hell are we doing?" That was literally the face and what I said to him.
Then USF snapped it over the quarterback's head when they were driving down to maybe take.
That's right.
Tying field goal.
Yeah. PTSD all over again.
Jeez. No, I think for this game, I think USF can stay with them for a little while, and maybe even into like the end of the third quarter. And I think it may be like a 20-17 game. But I think that Florida is just going to run the damn ball and run ball into the, like 10 times in the fourth quarter at least. And I'll see, it'll be like close there, but then it's like they just take over and they end up winning, like I'm going to say like 31-20. And but yeah, it's, with USF, it's like this is not the end of the road, these two games, Florida and Miami. This is just like get through this unscathed, stay as healthy as you can to prepare for conference play so you can, like, this year finally compete for a championship in the conference, which has never been done. Yeah. And so that has got to be the goal more than anything, because if you do that, like Seth said, then you have a shot at a playoff spot, and then anything is possible from there. So Seth, what are your I think you're on 2 different podcasts, right? Your own stuff, and then you with Pod by the Bay, right?
So Pod by the Bay is our podcast, the Bay Area Examiner. We cover USF sports and some other Tampa Bay sports. We're starting to branch out a little bit more, getting some young people in there that are really good writers that want to cover more stuff. So, but mostly USF sports. So Bay Area Examiner on Twitter, Instagram, pretty much everywhere. And then, I do stuff on YouTube at Varnadore Films. That's more Florida Gators scheme focused. I've already put out kind of my quick look at last week's game. It's Varnadore Films on YouTube. I'm at Seth Varnadore on Twitter. All that stuff will be there as well. So, yeah, you can check it out there.
Nice. Well, thanks for coming on. And, hopefully we'll have you on sometime later in the season. But, it kind of like pits our like souls against ourselves because it's like the 2 teams we love. But it's great because this might be the last time for a while because it's not on the schedule anytime soon. And it may be a bowl game or a playoff game or whatever, but this is it for a while. So let's enjoy this. I actually at the last minute, I had bought a ticket to go to the game like 2 months ago, and I wasn't for sure if I could go. And I was like waiting. And I finally figured out I could go. And I was like, all right, I'm going to go. And I was like, you know what? This is, we don't know when the next game is going to be between these 2. We cover these 2 teams, so I had to do it, and I pulled the trigger. And Ian will hopefully be there. Are you going to be there in Gainesville?
I will not. No, I'm not going to be there. I was thinking about it, but I'm not. I'm probably not going to make it.
Okay. All right. Well, it would have been nice to see you, but thanks for coming on tonight. And
no problem. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah. All right. All right, that is the show. Again, thanks to Seth Varnadore for coming in, talking USF Florida. We'll be back on Sunday to recap the show. I'm going to have a hellacious schedule in the next couple of days. I got an early flight on Friday, and then then the game on Saturday, and then a super early flight on Sunday. I think it's like a 5 a.m., 5:30 flight. So I'm going to be, barely getting any sleep Saturday night, but it makes it so that I can get here and I'll be able to do show prep before we have the show on Sunday night. So again, look for us for articles. I'm going to have one on this game, haterradio.com. Look for Seth's stuff on Varnadore Films, and then Pod by the Bay. And then look for us on all of the socials. The show airs Sundays and Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That's the show. Enjoy these games. I'll talk to you guys next week. All right, take care.